Yo, what is going on? One Punch and Done here. Now, if you missed the Gundam Wing card game dropping, it is time to wake up because me and Coach just recorded a straight up heater of a podcast. He took first place at a tournament. First place, okay? Not did okay. First place, okay? We're going to be breaking down exactly how he cooked the competition, the deck tech, the strategy, some laughs along the way, of course. You already know the deal. So go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe. Let's get into it before the meta changes. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful day, night, wherever you are, whatever time you are watching this. I am here, One Punch, with my buddy Coach, as usual, for our second podcast episode. By the way, we don't have a name for this podcast officially yet, so if you have a name or an idea, maybe something that we can do, something catchy for the two of us, maybe you can drop it in the comments below. But anyways, Coach, how you doing today?
Good. Just woke up a bit ago after a long nap and ready to talk about Gundam and other things.
Gundam, dude. Okay, so I guess we'll get right into it because you've been playing a lot of Gundam.
Yes.
You want to tell us about that, Coach? What's going on, man? Episode 1, you weren't playing. You definitely weren't seeing this game as something that you would be interested in. But nonetheless, I mean, maybe you should tell them, not me, but how deep are you entrenched in this game as of right now?
As of right now, I'm gonna be going to my locals twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. I'm definitely trying to follow the YouTube videos, listen to content whenever I go to sleep or whatever. And spent, probably close to $1,000 into this game, so I'm pretty deep. I'm not buying boxes, but $1,000 of singles for my 2 decks.
$1,000. I mean, this is coming from the guy who said, I don't think I'm gonna get into it. I think you said it was a little too easy, or was it too basic for your liking at the time?
Yeah, it seemed a bit too plain during the beta phase and the star deck stuff. But now that there's been obviously all the cards that come out, there's a lot more interesting things going on. That's not why I got into it. I got into it because people were hating on Aggro the week before, and then I went to one of my locals with Aggro, and I was laying in bed and I was like, all these people are playing Wing and blockers and like thinking like Aggro's not doing that good anymore because it just doesn't win or something, and it was kind of slept on a little bit. And so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna play Aggro. It's usually really cheap, and I'm gonna go like show everybody or just do well and go win the tournament locally. And that was my goal. That's what I did this weekend, and so I'm happy with that. And now that I've kind of done that, it's kind of out of my system. I even took a break like all of yesterday, just not playing any Gundam, but I'm going to be switching over to my Wing control deck now.
I gotta ask you, okay, so your favorite Gundam, because you said you're switching over to your Wing deck now, is that your favorite Gundam? Who that is?
Yeah, Wing Gundam's my favorite, and it's probably the favorite for most American viewers, so I've heard. But Wing Gundam's my favorite because Hero was the first character that I looked at on the TV, and I was like, this is the only guy that kind of resembles with what I am, and I could see that as a kid in Hero. Most people probably didn't see that because he was so like kind of toxic and so serious sometimes, but I saw him as an ideal hero, but almost like an anti-hero in a way.
Yeah, we love our anti-heroes. I just feel like they're more charismatic than like the average do-gooder. The other ones are like they win our hearts because they know it's the right thing to do, but they tend to do the thing that like puts a smile on our face more often than not, and that type of smirk and wink and nod in the background going, I know what I should be doing, but I'm also kind of a selfish character, but you love me anyway because I always end up doing the right thing in the end. So I'm not a big Gundam watcher or fan, but is that more or less kind of what he's like?
I don't actually remember fully, but no, he's more of like he was really brutal in the show. That show was more like guns blazing, lots of fighting and stuff. And Hero, like, he was like pretty ruthless at the beginning of the show. He's like telling a girl he'll kill her. He doesn't want to get invited anywhere. He's like basically a young child who's born into war, you could say, and he's just, there to assassinate or kill people and pilot a Gundam and do all that jazz.
So listen, dude. If Wing Gundam is your character, what happened? You didn't want to make a Wing Gundam deck for your first tournament there, or did you say that it was because it was like an aggro build? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, the reason why. So obviously I wanted to play this game because I wanted to kind of go in and show like aggro still has a place, is very, very good, and it does take some sort of skill to play aggro correctly. But the reason why I'm not playing Wing, which I bought the Alt Art Wing Zeros now, like 4 of them. They're coming in the mail soon. Hopefully, so I'm going to be playing that quite a bit. Probably going to be playing that a lot. But the reason why I didn't play Wing is, as most, Gundam people know, that the starter decks are all sold out. They came out for like, $15. They're selling for like $50 Canadian. The one with the models are selling for like $110 Canadian when they came out for 50. So the price is like doubled, tripled, and some places are selling them for like $80, which is almost 8 times the cost of what the deck was MSRP for, pretty much. So because of that, and not having access to any of the cards, and I'm in Canada, which meant that I couldn't buy a shit ton of cards off TCG Player because it won't ship to Canada and other reasons. And so I pretty much had to go to 4-1 games online and just find whatever cards I could, build a deck, and luckily they had a lot of Zaku, a lot of aggro stuff, because, it was kind of being slept on, no one was playing it, so they had a ton of Zaku, a ton of aggro cards, and I pretty much built a whole deck out of that immediately, and got it shipped, like, ASAP, and, pretty much went from there.
Okay, so, what are the starter deck prices up to right now?
There's the recent like short that came out where they were selling for like $50 to $70. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was Canadian prices because 70 US seems way too much, but I'm pretty sure it was like 50 Canadian dollars is what you can find online, and 70 Canadian on some stores, which were showing in the short. Which is insane.
It is insane, and it's the number one reason why I really hate getting into new card games, let alone the game I'm already into, or for a game I'm excited about. Like the coming Riftbound in October, I'm going to be really excited to get, product. But if the price is kind of like this is inflated, I'd rather I'm totally just going to proxy play with local friends. And because like I said, like we talked about last time, I really don't have the coin to just drop on $3,000 worth of cardboard. That's not a conversation I want to have with my wife. So but the games are fun. So and there's no denying that. I'm totally willing to proxy, and not to take away money from the. I know these developers that create these games purpose them for people to play. But when when there's like short prints or whatever, and stock is low, prices naturally go up, and I just don't care enough for it that I'm willing to, because I don't play competitively either. I just want to hang out with my buddies and play some cards. But that is neither here nor there. I don't really want to get too much into it but you just came in first place in a recent tournament, dude. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, number one, okay, tell them, because it was kind of crazy what you told me to kind of prepare for this tournament, because the day before we had a little conversation and you told me how many games you played. Now tell them now.
Yeah, so I pretty much got my cards in on Thursday. I ordered them on Monday, last Monday pretty much, so a week ago. And I got, a week ago from when we're recording this, which is on the 4th. So last week I ordered my cards. I got them in on Thursday, and on Thursday I played. On Friday I ended up playing 50 games on Discord on webcam, and so I dropped 50 games in one night, pretty much till 2 in the morning. Took a nap in between somewhere, and then I had my tournament the next day at basically 11:30 in the morning.
So the guys at your locals didn't have a fucking shot, because you had just too many games under your belt. These are probably guys the cards still probably smell like the plastic from their starter deck, and you just came in and you shit on everybody, which isn't a nice thing to do for a Canadian, I might add. It's kind
No,
of
it's not. Yeah, it wasn't a nice thing. Luckily, I didn't like to say shit on them. It wasn't really a show up and shit on everybody because I played so many games. I mostly play games just to have fun, and the game was like really fun, and I just wanted to get a lot of testing in beforehand just to make sure that this was the deck I wanted to play, because one of my locals, Armando, he was willing to let me borrow a deck that he would make beforehand. So I had access to like the wing deck, but I really just got the cards in luckily before the tournament. So I was like, hey, my cards came in like with 1 day delivery pretty much, which was really nice. And I ended up just taking my own deck and testing it just to make sure that, hey, is this deck actually viable? And I think I ended up that night. I ended up 42-8 was the ending result of the 50 games, and right now I'm up to 68-12. So now I've played about 70 games, so I've definitely toned down over the weekend. But yeah, when going to the tournament, everybody there was playing basically wing. A lot of wing Gundams, a lot of wing zero decks with white and green. So I think there was one white and blue maybe, but I played against wing every single time, and honestly the games ended like by the time I had 4 resources or 5 resources, the game was over. In fact, on round 3, the store owner Solon, he came over and he was asking my opponent, hey, like, you're versing this guy, and he's like, oh yeah, I lost. And Solon was like, what do you mean you lost? The round is just starting. And he's like, yeah, I lost. And then Solon was like, did you lose last round? Because this is round 3, by the way. And then he's like, no, I lost this round right now to him. That's how fast the game was. And then Solon's like, oh my god, that's crazy, right? And the round hadn't even started. I don't think he had started the clock yet, just because he was making sure everybody was like settled in. And the game was just over. And that's how quick this deck kind of just beats you down. And the Wing Gundam deck especially, I worst 3 of them, and every single one, the game was like folded so quickly that it really did feel like they were really upset. Just looking at my opponent, felt like they, kind of didn't want to play anymore. Obviously, I offered them a second game so they wouldn't have to sit there for 40 minutes, but all the games kind of went by really, really quick. And that's why I'm changing decks as well, because I don't like having my opponents feeling like, you show up for a game and then the game ends in like, 2 minutes, and you feel like you didn't get to play your Gundam, or you didn't get to play the card that you bought or really wanted to see hit the table.
wow, how noble of you to offer such condolences to to your fallen comrades there. No, but that's weird because you told me that all your opponents were as dumb as a box of rocks. Just kidding. I know a lot of your locals are listening. It's just trying to get you in a little bit of trouble there. But no, I mean, no one wants to lose. No one wants to lose that bad. And then new card game, you're probably feeling like, all right, everybody's still trying to learn the shit here, right? And then coach comes and has every answer, every out that he needs, and knows exactly how to counter your deck. And that probably hurts a little bit. That would probably, yeah, that would wedge my panties right up my crack playing you after sleeving my deck, thinking this new game, new start, I get matched against coach, and yeah, you just. But I think what everyone wants to know is, what is this deck? You're talking about this deck. One, before you show us the deck, the actual cards, what did the Gundam deck want to do? What did the Wing Zero deck want to do? And why was it so easy for you to overcome whatever strategy that deck is trying to do?
So, the Wing Zero deck it plays Wing Zero on turn 8, and it basically deals 3 damage to every single medium to smallish leveled monster or Gundam.
Right.
And so it's a late game stall, and then you can play the biggest beast stick in the game, which is Wing Gundam, Gundam Wing, or Wing Gundam and Wing Gundam Zero. And basically big end game boss monsters that have board wipes, and they're trying to control the game, draw cards, stall the game out, play bases, and just go for that strong control late game. While my deck is full rush, I'm playing green, red, Zeon rush, just pure Zeon rush, and just hammering in as much damage as possible, and that's basically what counters them. And if you're not a good pilot with the Wing Gundam deck, which I think takes a skilled pilot to operate correctly, especially if you're trying to build, if you're trying to net list, especially because you don't really know why they made the choices they did, unless you're just running the vanilla, basic version of the deck. That's very simplified. And I think in that game, like all of my opponents basically, I don't think they mulliganed to counter what I was playing, and they kind of might have made one or two misplays as well. And against me, when the game's ending in 4 to 5 turns, one to two misplays is basically not playing the game, especially when that deck particularly doesn't play anything on the first turn.
It doesn't want. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, okay, so I've played a few games with you, and the game to me feels a little wonky, but that's my personal taste. But I noticed if you don't play a card in the first turn, and you set up a little bit slow, I feel like it's a little bit hard to get the steam going. And if you fall behind in that game, especially if like your base takes all the damage, whatever, and your shields are wide open, I mean, you can just ram one power units into that all day, and you can lose because there's really, for the games that we played, very few and far between like the actual those burst effects, which may or may not even help. Like you might even get a burst effect, but it doesn't do anything because like it just doesn't do anything. Like in that scenario. But dude, listen. Obviously, you have we want to get to everything, so let's get right into your deck. I pulled up your deck list here. I'm going to put the deck list on the side next to this picture that you sent me in our Discord, so that if people want to create this deck, they can. But why don't you run through your choices here, and we'll just kind of have you read off the card, kind of what it does. These are my favorite ways of doing deck profiles. Read off the card, do what it does, and then kind of like the way it's used in the deck, and kind of the things that it helps combat, and how it counters your opponent's like plays and whatnot, and how it's really good in the deck, etc. I'll leave it to you, Coach. Go for it.
Yeah, so I put these in order, as you can see on the screen, pretty much. So we're starting with the DOP. I believe that's how it's pronounced. DOP, dope, I don't know. But the DOP pretty much is, we don't have draw power in this deck in particular, but the DOP is really, really good for making sure that the top card of your deck is what you need it to be, even in the mid game, and sometimes in the early game when you're in a particular matchup, because you don't know who you're playing against, what deck they're bringing, and the DOP can let you kind of funnel through your deck to go find the answer. One of the answers you're trying to find usually is either a leader, a pilot to link up, or for a Gaian, I believe that's how you pronounce it, to pop blockers, which I'll get to later. Being a 1-drop is super powerful. Then we're running Zaku 1s. There's 4 of those in the deck, and they're there just to be an extra one cost early game. And they're in Gundam right now, whether you go first or second, you want to be mulliganing to kind of make sure that you have a turn 1 play with this deck at all times, and making sure that on turn 2 you are popping your opponent's EX base immediately, so they can't just like, that's what a lot of my opponents found out, like their EX base was gone before they even had a chance to play a card, usually, if they're playing like these Wing Gundam decks. So, and then we have Zaku 2 here, who on swing, he gains 2 extra attack or AP, and so he can take out the EX base if he goes second, because he is a level 2, so you can't play him if you're going first, but if you're going second, you can go second, draw a card, and drop him immediately, and then pass. Your opponent basically plays something, then you swing and take out his EX base. The next card is interesting, the Zaku's 1 sniper type. A lot of people don't like this card, and I think they haven't played with it too much. But people are kind of gravitating, either they're in the boat of like don't play it or play it. But I think more and more people, as they play more of this deck, are playing the sniper type. The reason why you're playing this is, again, when you play it, you get to draw a card. So if you need to fix your hand or just get an extra unit towards your hand, you can basically go get that. The other reason, the big reason that people forget about why this card is actually really good, is it has a link at the bottom left. So you can link with any Zeon unit, which is basically all your pilots, Zeon pilots. And this can end games or come in for quick 1 damage swings, like you were talking about. Once the shield is wide open, I can play a Zaku sniper and link it and just swing for an extra shield immediately if I don't have any other cards. And this can really get, like, the shields really, really low really quickly, and I can kind of just outpace my opponent faster than they thought that they were going to get, trying to come back to the game, basically. The next card that's extremely important, this is a card that a lot of people don't play or weren't playing maybe a week ago, but Gaza D Sleeves is so powerful, and the way that you want to play this is when you go first, you pretty much drop a DOP or a Zaku, and on turn 2, There's nothing in your deck that can basically kill the EX base. The exception to this is Gazaji Sleeves and Ashar Aznable. You basically equip your 1 cost with either Shar or you play Gaza, and you can activate his support 2 ability to pump that 1 drop to a damage 3 and take out the EX base on turn 2. The core strategy of this game in the early parts is like on turn 2, your opponent's EX base needs to be in the graveyard most of the time if you're trying to win, and that usually makes up the difference between a win or a loss in those close games. So this card is a 4 of in every single time, and I'm basically mulliganing to try and get a 1 drop plus that in my hand. And a lot of my opponents, or opponents in general, especially in the current metagame, are trying to go second to get that EX base to ramp. And so I just basically try to get the 1 drop, try to get the 2 drop, get the EX base out, and then on turn 3, we're going to go to the next card. We have the Shard Zaku 2s. Basically, the first one here, he just is there that, you know, if he's paired, when he dies, they get a 3/1 token, which is just more aggro to keep bodies on the floor. And the one after that is the one that when he dies, he gets me to look at the top 3 cards, and I get a unit to my hand. So again, this is another way, like the Dop and the Sniper, to kind of keep cards in my hand or on the board, and so they kind of recycle themselves as they pass away, which is basically draw power. These 2 link up with Char, so they're really good for that play and to just go aggro and swing on turn 3 to take out another base. If they, you know, play a base, which most people usually play a base at this point, just to try and slow you down, but they don't realize that you're gonna just link up and swing for 5 or 6 and take out their played base. Moving on, one thing you'll notice is like, why am I running 4 of the Zaku 2s that, you know, die and get a token, and why not 4 of the other ones? The only reason for this is because you basically swap those into 3 of the first one and 4 of the second one. I just couldn't find the other Zaku 2, so I just don't have access to that card right now. But I would definitely just swap the numbers around. Then the Galgoog. This is another really good card. This is a level 4, but if you go second, and a lot of these level 4s, when you go second, you can play these and gain major tempo and kind of get a lead against your opponents, especially against the defensive type decks. So the Galgoog is a link card, and he links with all your pilots, which means you can play him. He's only a 2-drop level 4, and immediately swing at the base. If they don't have a blocker, you can just swing. If they do have a blocker, you know, Shar can still give high maneuverability. The other one gives you breach 1, so you can still, they choose to block it, they still take a damage and lose a shield. Really, really strong, and sometimes you're just getting these cards and dropping 2 of them on turn 4, and then basically passing and seeing if you can overwhelm your opponent that way. The next card in particular is the one that's a very, very strong tech card. Some people don't run this, and some people don't run it because they're playing a different color variation, so they don't have access to, or they don't want to play this particular card. But the Gaian is one of the most powerful cards into beating these control decks. And a lot of people will run only 2 of these. I'm running 4 because in those particular matchups, when I do need to either go looking with the Dop for a particular card, which would be him, or looking for if I want to steady the board, not swing and lose my units into blockers, wait till I draw him on turn, you know, 4, and then basically pop one of their Zorks, which is a level 2 blocker. He can clear the board and make my opponent be like, oh, I had 2 blockers, now I have 1. I can only block one of the guys, and then basically I have a board of like 4 or 5 units, and they'll take everything out, and my opponent will be down to like 2 shields at the end of that turn, which is really powerful. So I think people might be misplaying how to use it. They might not be fishing for it, or they might just have only 2 in their deck, and I find that 4 sometimes can get clunky, so maybe run 3, but 4 is usually what I just run, because I never want to not have this card, and it really does increase my win rate into that particular deck with that board state. The next card we have is Char's Galgoog. This, a lot of people run 3 ofs and not 4 ofs. Some people don't like this card, but this is a game ender, and this is very, very powerful. I just picked up my 4th copy, so I'm running it. And this is a card that I'm going to basically just keep playing 4 ofs. In other card games or in anything in general, if this is like your most powerful card, just run 4 of them so you have the consistency. You always draw it, and you can just keep playing it. It also pairs extremely well with Xanabar, which is a card that's, again, 50-50. Is it good? Is it bad? Some people don't like it. Mostly those people are playing other colors. But I really like Xanabar. I think it's one of the most powerful cards you have access to because it's level 4. You play it for 2, and you play a free card off of it. Everything in the deck for units is level 4 or less, which means that you can play any of your units with this card for free, which saves you resources. So you can play that Galgugu cost 4 for basically free by playing Xanabar. Xanabar also lets you draw a card because it's a base out of your shield. This can create some very interesting plays because you're not going to have a lot of draw power. So one of the ways is you play Xanabar, it draws you a card, it gives you a base, and it also lets you play a card for free. So it's basically a giant swing in terms of what you can do with options, from drawing an extra card, coming into that card play, and then letting you play these bigger monsters, or do some different things if you have 2 pods in hand, and go find something and basically give your opponent a hard time. In aggro matchups, it can be nice too, just because they have to now swing at your base with something big. And yeah, I like Xanabar a lot. Definitely running 4 of these. The next card is something that has caught the blocking decks a little bit off guard. It's a pilot, and I'm running 10 pilots in the deck. It's very important to run 10 in this deck in particular, because some of my units link with any pilot as long as it's a Zeon pilot, so it lets me just swing. This card's really nice. It's a tech card, basically. Other than being a pilot, it lets me basically as a action, so as an instant, or as basically a trap card essentially, from my hand, play it when my opponent thinks he's going to trade evenly or take me out while living on 1 HP. I pump my guys up by 1, and all of a sudden they lose their blocker when they thought that they would take out 2 of my units. They only take out 1, and they trade 1 for 1. And on my turn, when I'm trying to get those crucial breakpoints, if 5 to 6 or 4 to 5 or 3 to 4, this guy lets me do that and just go over. One thing I didn't mention is Gaian is not a link that you need. If you pair him, he pops a blocker, so he can pair with this guy and do work. The last 2 pilots, Char is the best pilot. We have to run 4 of him with high maneuver, one of the strongest things in the game for aggro. And Mikube is, I like Mikube a lot because my opponent's going to try to block, and it gives me +1 to my AP, which again lets me play perfectly into their blockers. And when they block me, they're going to lose their blocker, number 1, and then it's still going to breach. So my opponents will basically not block, and I can kind of basically edge out a shield token or a shield out of their health, and I can basically not swing with my other guys, keeping them around for another turn, and then they'll have to trade into him anyways to take him out. Or I can pump up my small guys to swing, and now my Dops, trading with the Zork and still getting a breach 1, and then they don't want to block that. So you can create some interesting lines, and that's pretty much the whole deck.
Damn! Let me ask you, did you create this from scratch, or did you kind of like look at pre-builds and then like decide this works, this doesn't? And then what was your way of like kind of testing it out, other than, or did you just go straight into the webcams?
Yeah, so I definitely went straight into the webcams, but I've looked at many decks even though I don't play them, and theory crafting my head as I have to, absorbing all the information, and my mind just does the rest. But no, this deck was actually, it was on a YouTube video about 2 weeks ago, I think, and aggro player had posted their version of this deck. I had my own version of this. It was basically the same thing. I came to the same results. His version was slightly different. He was running big Zams, 2 big Zams, and he was running only 2 Gaians, I believe, and maybe some other variations. I basically went with obviously all the cards that I could get access to, so some things are missing, and then I went to take out the big Zams now, and I am running like more Galgoogs, and I think those are the only changes. I'm running one more 1-drop as well, and I might be putting an extra 1-drop after. So having just a little bit more one drop adds to that consistency that you want. But besides that, everything is good. The further variations I would take this deck is I kind of want to play around with the 6 health base. I also want to put in Battle of Aces, which is a red burst card, which when it bursts, it does 2 damage. Or when I play, it does 2 damage to a rested unit, and when it bursts, it does 3, I think, something like that. It might be the other way around. Burst is 2, playing it is 3. And that's something that, you know, you commented on earlier, like, there's not a lot of burst cards when you take damage to your bases and you die, basically. There's other decks out there, and you can, like, you personally could build your own deck with a lot of burst. And that's where kind of, like, the more aggro variants are going to. It's because in the mirror match, you want to have more burst, so when they go to the base, you get your burst, you cap their units so you don't take as much damage, or you pop something, and then all of a sudden their damage goes way far down, and if they're not up to the meta, they might be open for just game right there.
Okay. So, and now you said you're going in. Do you have a list yet for the Gundam Zero deck you want to build?
The Gundam Zero deck, I don't have a list yet because I'm going to be playing with a lot of it. And there's I have a variation in my head that I want to test out. And I think there's going to be a lot of playtesting I'm going to have to do to get to the, not even playtesting, just I haven't sat down to look at all the cards and think about it in depth because I just got into the game on Thursday. So it's been, what, 3-4 days pretty much? Like basically 3 days. And one of those days was spent at a tournament. One of those days was spent playing 50 games. So basically I've had, you know, a day maybe to look at some of the stuff. So I'm going to be looking at it. I'm going to be theory crafting a lot, building my own variation of the Wing Gundam deck. And I'm kind of leaning towards a more, like, it's going to go to late game, but it's going to go to late game by not just stalling or playing random cards, but by playing the early game, surviving till the mid game, then finishing it off in the late game if I need to. So it's going to be more of a early to mid range, but still having the late game cards to go late if it goes to that.
Okay. So in terms of, I'm curious now, the games that you have been playing, I know you do some mini wargaming and whatnot. Are you playing any other card games, first of all? Like, do you play anything else other than Gundam right now?
I'm still playing Flesh and Blood. I still try to go to my locals on Saturdays, playing CC mostly, and playing Bolton and Katsu in that mostly. And, you know, I still coach Flesh and Blood a little bit and give advice on card games in general. And then I'm playing Warhammer, not a card game, but I still play Warhammer 40K as my main job, coaching it daily.
Okay. Now, Gundam, where do you put that on the list in terms of Fab, Gundam? You're playing those 2 card games as of right now. Is this like, I mean, are you just kind of on the hype train right now, or are you really just loving this game?
I'm enjoying the game. I'm not on the hype train per se. Like, I never got on the hype train. I kind of just got pissed off that people were, you know, not really on the aggro train. And I just wanted to go in and do that. But Wing Gundam is my favorite, so I'm buying that deck only because it's my favorite Gundam, and I'm gonna keep buying it just for like sentimental reasons or whatever. I'm like, the next sets are gonna come out for Gundam. I'm not gonna be buying like singles or cards. Might be upgrading my decks, but I'm not gonna be like buying boxes and stuff and like that. I'm just playing the game as a hobby and still being competitive. I'm gonna be competitive at all times, but I'm playing it as a hobby, not like this is my main game or anything. I'm not gonna be going to like big tournaments and things like that.
Okay. As of right now, because last time we had a podcast, you weren't playing this game altogether, so things could change, correct?
Yeah, if I get sponsored to go to like a big tournament for Gundam, or if I get, you know, if all of a sudden people are going to a Gundam tournament, I can go with them, I'll go. But usually I don't end up like liking to pay, you know, $400 or $500 to go travel, and maybe more, and then just go play a card game. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Anything you want to add in particular to our conversation here, Coach? Because I'm out of questions.
Pretty much, I mean, there's no point talking about the games because the games went by really, really quick. And, you know, It was a fun time going to my locals. I'm gonna be going on Wednesday to go play. We have a Wednesday Gundam night, so we're all gonna be playing Gundam. Basically, we had a showing of like 12 people, and 16 or something around there, I think, at the Gundam night. So the Gundam game is going pretty strong, and like I said last episode, if you are pretty much gonna get into this game, even as a casual or whatever, just keep going to your locals, keep playing, and don't just buy the cards and be like, oh, I'm too busy with work, or I'm like, things are happening. Things are happening for everybody. Just keep going to your locals, otherwise this game will, you know, everyone's gonna be in the same boat as you. Like, oh, I have work, I can't show up. That's half the community goes, I have work, or not work, but like I'm tired or whatever, and they don't show up, and then we have 6 people showing up, and it's gonna be like, oh, well, there's no point showing up now. I can take the day off because everybody else is taking the day off. It's kind of like when you're on a team or in school, and like if your buddy doesn't show up to school, you don't want to show up to school, and it makes other people's days better if you show up. It also gives them incentive to actually wake up, go to school because they want to see you, play the game, and have fun with it pretty much.
All right, man. Definitely respect it. And I guess just to keep things interesting every time, I guess once a week, just, we'll go over locals, what's going on, and you teach us a little bit about what you're seeing and some of the decks that are being played, some of the cards that are getting used, and whatnot. Just keep us posted. That way we can have a very informative, semi-Gundam Wing podcast. Of course, that is half decently true because I want to talk about Riftbound, and you know that. So, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Because I would like to show you something.
Yes, you can show me whatever you're trying to show me.
Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to dive into that just yet. That part is actually going to be saved for our next podcast, where we're going to be talking about Riftbound. If that's something you're into or curious about, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching or listening to the podcast. This one was super informative, so we want to thank Coach, honestly, for schooling me on the Gundam Wing card game. Stuff I had no clue about. But I did learn a lot, and I hope you did too. Catch you next time.